Hello and welcome back aboard Narrowboat Gentian, where I and Mr. Sea Otter here have been receiving many questions all about the boat and my plans for it and the other boat and so on and so forth. So this is a dedicated sit-down question and answer video. No pretty pictures, I'm afraid, just my ugly face, the much nicer face of Mr. Sea Otter, and the iPad with the various questions on it. So if you have armed yourself with a nice cup of tea, of course, and some biscuits, then we'll delve straight into them. And the first question I've had, overwhelmingly so, is not actually about this narrowboat, but what about Twiggy? What's going to happen? Some of those comments have been concerned, saying they want to know what's going on with the refurbishment. Some have been actually quite unpleasant, saying I hope you scrapped that ugly old boat and got rid of it, and various other things along those lines. Well, bad luck, haters. No, I have not got rid of Twiggy. I do not intend to get rid of Twiggy. I want to fix Twiggy up. I want to see if I can do it. It's an interesting, for me, DIY project that I will actually now enjoy more because I don't feel any pressure to get the boat back on the water because I've got Gentian to go chugging around the canals on. So Twiggy stays with me and for the foreseeable future will stay on dry land at the dock, and I reckon about once a month I'll do a video updating you with any work I've done aboard the boat. That means inevitably progress on the renovation will be slow, but as the weather turns nicer and warms up, I'm certainly hoping to get all the fiberglassing done around the transom and more work done on the interior. In fact, just earlier this very week, I went back to the boat for, I think, the first time since Christmas, just to see how it's been getting on in all the floods and things and the storms and the winds we've had. And I did a little bit of work on the boat. So there's going to be more of that. If those videos aren't to your taste, it's very easy to just skip them and then wait for another one coming along about Narrowboat Gentian or any other narrowboating topics. I am going to be doing other things, as I tend to do, about canals and other boats and so on, dotted intermittently around the year. So there's some interesting stuff coming up as well. As always, if you don't like a particular one, just skip it and wait for the next one. I would, again, though, urge, I sound like a proper YouTuber now, to hit that subscribe button. Don't hit it. Press it gently with your mouse, because if you are subscribed to the channel, which doesn't cost anything, it means that YouTube will list my videos on the subscriptions tab of your YouTube app or the website, and then it's very easy to scroll through them. They're in chronological order, and you can see, oh, there's one about Twiggy, I either like or don't like that. There's one about this, I like or that. It's just easy to go through them and know that you are up to date with whatever the latest videos are. Right, plug over. That answers what I'm going to do with Twiggy. So we come back to, how do I plan to use this narrowboat, this compact 26-foot 2001 Sea Otter? Am I going to be living aboard? No. I know there are people who live aboard tiny boats, but realistically, this is not a live aboard boat. It is a weekend boat. It is perhaps an occasional week's holiday boat. But aside from the fact it's simply not really a practical live aboard, I'm not in a position to go living aboard the boat and extended cruising around the canals. There is a family matter which I am committed to and will be committed to for the foreseeable until that is no longer the case, and that means I need to be around a home base so that I'm on hand, and that continues to be the case. So this boat is very much a weekend boat. I simply cannot go off for more than a couple of days at a time on this boat, any other boat, holidays or whatever. Occasional, maybe once a year, there'll be a special occasion and I can work things so that I can go away for a bit longer. But basically, the situation is this is a weekend boat and that is how it is going to be. The odd day, the odd night here and there. So no, not live aboard, but I'm hoping to put it somewhere where there will be plenty of opportunities for cruising. And that was, in fact, one of the other questions. Where am I going to keep it and where am I going to travel to? Well, at the moment, it's still up in Lincolnshire, which is where it was for sale. And it will probably stay here, to be honest, until we get nicer weather in the spring, because to come out of here, I need to go up the tidal Trent. And we've had so much rain and so many floods, and the rivers keep being in flood. It's not ideal for taking the boat up the Trent at the moment. So I think it'll stay here until the spring when the weather calms down a bit, and frankly the weather is nice. It's glorious sunshine today, but it's absolutely perishingly cold outside, and I can't see myself happily chugging up the canals or rivers for more than about 20 minutes in this temperature. So, springtime, bring the boat down south towards the Midlands, probably not actually near where I live, because I live in the Worcestershire area and it's just so heavily locked. You've got Tardybig Lock, 30 locks within 2 miles, and even if you don't go that way, it just locks everywhere. So I'm probably going to keep it somewhere else, but in the Midlands, so that I can drive to it relatively easily, and somewhere where there are many, many different routes. So one weekend I can do this way, one weekend I can do that way, one weekend that way, and so on and so forth. And it'll be variety for me, it'll be variety for you, and hopefully a good set of canal jaunts. Will I go and meet up with Lorna on her tiny boat somewhere on the Leicester Arm? I would like to. Obviously, that depends on where it is and whether I can get there, or whether she can come down some way and I can join up and meet her within the constraints of a weekend of travel. But yes, plenty of options, and it's going to be somewhere in the Midlands. Will I be towing the narrowboat? Unfortunately not, even though you can bring it out the water, empty the ballast tank as shown in the survey video. The boat still weighs 2.5 tons. Then it would be on a trailer, which has a weight itself. My camper van has a 2-ton towing limit, so I do not have a vehicle suitable for towing the narrowboat. And yes, I could hire a trailer and hire a vehicle, and expense and cost, and I've never towed anything in my life, and I just imagine the chaos if I start towing a 2.5 ton 26-foot narrowboat around. You would not want to be on the roads at the same time, let me assure you. So I don't think that's going to happen. It is a trailable boat technically, but it's not something I'm looking to do. And to be frank, even Twiggy, the fiberglass cruiser, I was going to be very anxious about towing that anywhere, so that really wasn't going to, although I said initially, oh, I can tow it everywhere. Practically speaking, I'd be a bit anxious about that. So I know I'm being a wuss. I know people tow things all the time, caravans and RVs and all this sort of stuff. But, you know, on the little roads of Britain with concrete bollards sticking up everywhere and tight corners and twisty roads, it wouldn't be fun. I'd be stressed the whole time. There's no point doing boating if it's going to be stressful. The whole point is to chill and relax. People have said, will I be renaming Narrowboat Gentian, or as some have so kindly called it, Narrowboat Genitals? Get your mind out the gutter, for goodness sake. The gentian is a plant. It's a nice plant. It's used for things, medicinal things. No, I don't mind the name gentian. I have no plans to rename the boat. Honestly, I'm not really one for naming things. I know some people name their cars, and it's a car. It's a boat. I'd call it boat, given the choice. But because you are, I think, obliged to have a name for it, it's called Gentian. Gentian it will remain. Will I repaint it? People have been saying they don't like the colour. Bad luck. I like dark blue, so I'm happy with the blue. What it does obviously need is lots of touch-up repainting. There are so many little spots on the boat where the paint has come off, revealing the aluminium beneath. Aluminium painting, I believe, is a bit of an art to it, because as soon as you've sanded it back, it starts oxidising with the air. So you've got to sand it, clean it, slap the primer on pretty much immediately, and then get a top coat on as soon as you can as well. So there's going to be a bit of a learning experience with that. And whether I can actually get some paint that will match the colour of the boat now, I'm really hoping there is a standard called Gentian Blue, and that this boat was done in Gentian Blue, and that I can get some. Do you know, in all the notes the owners and the previous owners left on board, which is the engine manual, the manuals for the toilet, the manuals for the cooker, just everything, even the original invoice, I can't actually see, maybe I haven't read it properly, I can't see a reference to the exact colour the boat was painted in. It'd be really handy if somewhere there it gave a RAL colour scheme or a Pantone reference or something like that, but I haven't seen one. So let's assume it's called Gentian Blue. Let us hope I can find a marine paint for aluminium in Gentian Blue, and then I will patch it up. Then, of course, it will need some new sign writing, both the name, the little flower on the side, and also the little, what do you call them, coach lines around the edge are all very faded. Now, I had a lovely offer from a sign writer who left a posted comment saying he'd be delighted to do it. And I've always wanted to do a video about sign writers and how they do, you know, they have that long paintbrush and they kind of hold it on their arm and they do this freehand, beautiful, beautiful paintwork freehand. Anyway, that's probably a little way down the line, but hopefully once I've done the touch-ups of the blue paint, then we can get the actual coach lines and the actual name all rewritten and sign written, and that could come perhaps in the summer. Let's see how we go on that one. So no colour change, but I will hopefully touch up the paint so that it looks a bit smarter. Right, what improvements and upgrades do I plan? And in a sense, relatively few. The boat is, by and large, good to go as is. Quite clearly, it's been doing perfectly satisfactory service for the prior owners for the last 23, 24 years. And in a sense, there's nothing that needs to be changed. However, I will probably put a solar panel on the roof. The trouble with aluminium boats, as you may know, is they can suffer from this electrolytic corrosion aspect when you plug into a shoreline. It's all to do with earth currents and stray currents, boggles the mind. But if I can get away with not plugging in and simply have a solar panel on the roof that will charge up at least the leisure battery, then I shouldn't really need to plug into a shoreline unless I want to run some high power appliances, because there is only presently a very tiny inverter on the boat and the battery's not big enough to support much of that, and I don't really want to start putting in a whacking great lithium battery system. I have been donated an inverter, thank you Andrew. I'm still not sure actually whether I'm going to put it on the boat, because I don't really think I'll ever have the battery system to support high loads that a big inverter will need. Everything here is standard 12 volt and just runs fine as it is. So solar, yes, to keep the leisure battery charged up. Changing the leisure battery for a big lithium bank and all that, possibly. I don't know. I may or may not do that. I do want to put an isolation transformer in for those occasions where I do plug into the shoreline. At the moment, I've got a galvanic isolator. It's an inline one that you sort of plug it into the shoreline. But you don't really know if those things are working. Apparently they can fail and still let the power through, and you have no idea whether they're doing their job or not. So I could buy another one, but again, you still don't know. So I'd like to put in a proper isolation transformer. Now, those are big, heavy, expensive devices. The lightest and smallest one I found is by Mastervolt. Their stuff is even more expensive than Victron stuff. And the 3.5 GI mass unit, I don't know, they've got some name for it. It's about £1,000. Ouch, but it only weighs 6 kilograms. Whereas the Victron one is 23 kilograms. That's a hell of a weight difference, because it would mount in this cupboard behind me, which is where the electrics come in. And you just wire in the incoming mains, and then you take the outgoing mains and plug it into the rest of the boat's electrics exactly as it is now. It's an easy install. I'm tempted to do it myself, although I should probably get a qualified electrician at least to look it over after I've done it. But that would mean that if I do plug into a shoreline, you do not have to worry about the electrolytic currents and the corrosion and whatever, because an isolation transformer physically isolates the boat from the shoreline. It's a good thing, it's just an expensive thing. So that's one thing I may do. And the other thing, where I'm sitting now, no, just behind where I'm sitting now in the bottom of this cupboard, is the propane gas heater. That works very well. It heats the boat up very well. It does seem to put a lot of condensation on the windows, even though the actual combustion unit is vented to the outside. Somehow the air coming out is all condensing, whereas when I run a little electric heater in here, no condensation. Anyway, the point is it uses a lot of propane, and propane is expensive. So various people have suggested, and I'd thought of it anyway, I might take that out and put a little diesel heater in like I did in the van. I'm not going to buy one of those horrid cheap units that are 200 quid. They're cheap, nasty, and all the pipes that come with them are nasty pipes, and it's cheap tat. What I put in the van was an Autoterm unit, which is solidly reliable. I'm very impressed with how it works, and They're built in Latvia. People say, oh, they're Russian, but I think they're made in Latvia. Anyway, the point is they work, and they're good quality, and they're cheaper than an Eberspacher or a Webasto. And of course I could plumb it in terms of the heating ducts, exactly where that propane heater is, just connect it to the same heating ducts. And they sip diesel fuel. They barely use any, whereas this propane one just goes through the gas at a ridiculous rate. So a diesel heater, put it in there, wire up the pipes. It should be a bit of a pain, but it's doable because I did it in the camper van. So that is something I'm definitely looking at. And that's probably all the upgrades really. Heater, solar panel, isolation transformer. That's about it really in terms of upgrades. People have asked, while we're talking about corrosion, why are there no anodes on the boat? When it came out for survey, they're all going, oh, you've got to have some anodes on your boat. Well, yeah, it's weird. Steel narrowboats have magnesium anodes on them, not zincs. Zincs tend to be used for salt water, I think. They're magnesium anodes on a conventional steel narrowboat. But weirdly, sea otters don't have anodes. Now, I don't entirely understand it. Again, I don't pretend to fully understand galvanic corrosion, but it's something to do with the fact that at any point on this boat where a dissimilar metal would be in contact with the hull, it has some form of isolating thing around it, like an HDPE shaft will enclose the steel prop shaft to isolate it from the aluminium hull. So there are no points where the dissimilar metals will touch and cause rusting and so on. And because it's in fresh water, you can tell I don't really know what I'm talking about. But the point is, I've read it. None of the sea otters seem to have anodes on them on the canals, and it doesn't seem to be an issue. They were making these since, I don't know, 97, 98. You see loads of them around, and they're fine. So they don't have anodes. So all the people saying, oh, you've got to have anodes. Apparently not. So let's not worry about that. Had a couple of queries about how big the water tank is. According to the documentation, 315 litres, which for a tiny boat is a big old water tank, I think. The fuel tank, I haven't found a note of how big that is. I have put in, what was it, 40 litres or so of diesel, or was it 40 gallons? No, 40 litres. Anyway, it's big enough. You know, the engine, tiny little 21 horsepower, it's going to be sipping fuel. The boat's lightweight aluminium. It's barely going to use any diesel. I don't really think I need to worry about how big the fuel tank is. How does air get vented from the ballast tank? Did we cover that one already? You know, in the survey, when we pop the boat back in and the water starts rushing into the underfloor ballast tank, people were saying, well, the air must escape from that somehow. On the early Sea Otters, there's a cap on the bow which you unscrew and you let the air out as the water's coming in. And the instructions for this boat quite firmly say, unscrew the cap and let the air out. There is no cap on this boat. I do know at some point they switched from having a cap to just having a little permanent vent that stays open. I can't find either of them. There's no cap on the bow and I can see no sign of a little air vent. But there's got to be one, otherwise the air wouldn't be able to get out of that ballast tank. So somewhere on the boat there is just a permanently vented tube which lets the air out of the tank when the water comes in and lets the air back in when the water is draining out. But where it is, I have no idea. I'd like to find it so that I can check it's clear and not blocked or anything. But yeah, no idea. If any other Sea Otter owners watching this, again, who have the same sort of thing, know where the vent pipe would be on one that doesn't have a thing on the bow for you to open and let the air in, I'd be very, very curious to know. Any suggestions, and I'll go and look around the boat, see if I can find one. And then the final question I've had is about the engine hours meter, which I said is obviously completely wrong because it's saying 50,000 hours. Someone said, well, maybe there's a tiny decimal point you've missed. No, I thought of that, I've looked, and it definitely is 50,000 hours on the engine meter. And then some people were saying, yeah, but 50,000 hours since 2001 when the boat was built, that's only 6 hours a day or whatever. But it isn't actually 50,000 since 2001, because I do have a copy of the service record for the engine dating back to 2013, and at 2013 the hours meter read 1,500, which means that in the last 11 years it's gone from 1,500 hours to 50,000 hours, which is 48,500 hours in 11 years, which works out to 12 hours use every single day. Like I say, just unfeasible. I mean, technically there are that many hours in the day, but for it to have run 12 hours a day every single day for the last 11 years, no, nonsense. The hours meter is definitely broken. And also so is the rev counter. But, you know, that's really... I know many narrowboats where the hours meter is just completely broken. It just shows 0. So it seems to be a thing about narrowboat hours meters. They don't work. So that's really nothing to worry about. As far as I'm concerned, the engine seems to run fine, as far as I know. Starts up okay. So, yeah, all good. I think that is all the questions I've had. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the interest in the boat. And I hope that we will have some cruising videos soon. People saying, when are you going to actually move the boat? Well, soon. When I'm settled in, I've got things to do, you know. I need to get it sorted and the way I like. And there's 1 or 2 things I need to do mechanically and stuff like that. I want to sort out the throttle lever and bits like that. So before I go anywhere, I just want to be comfortable on the boat, have things on the boat that make it a livable, usable boat. And then, when it's a little bit warmer, then I will take it for a cruise. So fear not, there will be cruise videos coming. There's just a little bit of getting acclimatized before we do any of that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon. Cheerio!